Hello everyone! In this video I will be watching interview of David Lynch, American filmmaker, and determining various aspects through his speech, behavior and appearance. And we'll see if I can determine his socionic and psychosophic types. And I think it's actually gonna be more challenging because people of his age are usually more difficult to type. And this was the most popular interview, so I decided to go with it. And so let's go.
Thank you very much. This is David Lynch's, not only his first visit to Brisbane, but also to Australia. So we're really happy to be here. So that's why we're in this musical setting, but it does give me a chance, David, to ask about the importance of music in your films and your work as a whole.
I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight. Good to see you.
So when the interview starts, they come in, sit down, interviewer introduces David Lynch, and he says hello to the audience. But what's interesting that it wasn't enough for him, and even though interviewer already started asking a question, he asked the first question, but David Lynch, instead of answering it, he ignored it and he addresses the audience again and tries to establish even better contact with the audience because for some reason he seems like he didn't felt satisfied with how it's happened initially. So that's and I think he established the contact with the audience quite well, and this is something that ethics would do typically better than logics, and they feel it as well. They feel the level of connection. So interesting observation here. And also I may say that his eyes looks to me like eyes of ethic more than eyes of logic, but we'll see.
So there's ideas for everything, and I love to try to catch ideas and catch an idea that I fall in love with, and then I know exactly what to do. Stay true to that idea, translate it to one medium or another. When you catch an idea, you see it in your mind's eye, and you feel it, and you can hear it, and then you write that idea down on a piece of paper. And you write it down in such a way that when you read it, the idea comes back in full. And you hold this idea in your mind, and you stay true to that, and it guides you through the process.
That's some strong introverted intuitive language. He is not just coming up with ideas. He is not just getting inspired by some physical objects, something happens, or some events, or etc. His experience. No, he catches these ideas like from some kind of I don't know, sort of ether or some invisible dimension, and he uses words like the ideas guide him, he sees the ideas inside of him, and all this mind things and mind techniques, like sort of like envisioning inside its introverted intuition, and he got to have it's strong to be able to see it through so deeply. What's also interesting that every time he comes up with idea, it seems like he's doing it. He follows a certain routine, like certain process, and ideas generally it's irrational aspect because it's like you never know when it's gonna come, and spontaneous, and they can come in so many different ways, but he has a certain process, so he rationalizes them. So that's why this is looks to me like he is rational.
Free to think anything and do anything, but you need to have freedom to do your work. Any restrictions is a sadness, and it can kill creativity.
If you notice that one of your friends or people you know during the conversation with you have a sort of disconnected look when they don't look at you or anything else, and they kind of look into nowhere, their look is disfocused and they sort of located like somewhere else, not here in this room, and this is how you can recognize this is a good sign that they might be introverted into it. And that's what he does, and frequently. And he even closes his eyes, well, which I don't know if it's could be from a health condition, of course, but I think most likely it's not. And he, even when he has his eyes open, he still got this disconnected look.
Each and every one of us human beings has a field within us, a treasury within us. And this treasury is known by many names, but it's like an ocean of pure consciousness, pure bliss. Unbounded this field is. Unbounded, infinite, eternal, immutable, immortal consciousness. And we're living on the surface, but deep within is this treasury. So I practice transcendental meditation as taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And Maharishi brought this, it's a mental technique, an ancient form of meditation he brought back for this time. It's easy and effortless. It's not a concentration form of meditation. It's not a contemplation form of meditation. These things keep you maybe near the surface at best. Any kind of mental activity will keep you near the surface. This transcendental meditation, easy and effortless, all the way to the source of thought, pure consciousness, modern science's unified field, the kingdom of heaven which lies within, the absolute, many names.
Wow, incredible. Such a strong understanding of introverted intuition. So he means that surface is a physical world, and he goes under the surface into the spiritual world, transcendental world, and he connects there to like pure consciousness, and it inspires him and brings all the positive. Also things like field of consciousness and mental techniques and expressions that he uses, like ocean of thought and treasure within us, all the things that you cannot see with your eyes, you can only like feel or perceive. It's invisible. This is all related to introverted intuition. What's funny is because how deep he goes into this topic, this could be really hard to grasp for people with extroverted intuition and values, and especially sensors. So if you feel in that way, don't worry, it's fine.
I was in this cubicle one night painting a garden at night, mostly black with some leaves green coming out. And I was sitting looking at this painting, and from the painting I heard a wind, and then I saw the green start to move. And I said, oh, a moving painting.
Wow, that's great. When you can see things coming to life that are real but don't exist, this shows you introverted intuition in work.
But it was this hospital, and I stood in the hall, and suddenly I got like transported back in time and felt what it was to be in that time. And it felt like I knew it. And from that moment on, I felt I owned it. And it changed everything, that experience.
Did I mention that he got strong introverted intuition? Well, traveling back in time and imagining yourself in the past, and like transformation and past, future. I mean, this is great.
And everything wasn't okay. So it was a terrible thing. And as I always say, the film was not a success. And so I died the death in that regard. And then I felt I had sold out, so I died twice.
This is some very strong words to describe a failure. And it tells me that he wants to bring attention to it, and that he was feeling highly emotionally hurt, and he wants to translate it in simple words. And this is something people with strong extroverted ethics are good at. He didn't just fail, he died. But he didn't die only once, he died twice. This would certainly win anybody's attention and would make you to take his words seriously. But also there is this clear negative flavor to it, because he didn't just fail, it's like so tragic, so dramatic, it's so dire, like to describe situation in such a way, not just, you know, I failed and I moved on or whatever. Yeah, it's being negative, so there is negativism in there.
There is a chance making a film over a long period of time that you lose objectivity. So as painful as it is, I have a screening with, say, several people, and you sit with them and you can feel, you don't need notes, you can feel where it's not working or when it is.
These are people who know nothing about it.
Nothing about it. And I think that's very important. And it teaches you a lot. It's very excruciating and a horrible thing, but it's very good to fix things before it's too late.
That's a noteworthy statement, that he doesn't need to actually talk to these people, ask their opinion about what they see about his work. They just see, and he just present there and he feels. This is what ethics are capable of. They don't need necessarily to talk with person, just have some sort of a connection, and they can feel what person thinks, what they feel. But also the way he is saying that it's excruciating for him. He was talking about feeling the ideas all the time, and like emotional feeling, and that he really getting into them. It's not just he thinks they're good. Everything he evaluates by feeling, by his emotional state during it, and things like that. He is very sensitive to all the negative opinions about his work. He feels that it's so precious, he is so much emotionally attached to it, that it really, really hurts him, as he describes. So all of this leads to first emotion. Okay, everyone, let's talk about David Lynch's Socionic type. So, logic or ethic? Well, in the video, there are multiple occasions where he was indicating strong ethics, and he was behaving as an ethic. He was saying ethical things about other people. He also feels what actors would fit for certain things, like he can say, do they have the necessary character, necessary traits for the roles that he wants, and so on and so forth. There was quite a bit of ethics, so I would say that he is ethic. So is he intuit or censor? Well, I hope it's quite clear that the amount of intuition that he is shown in his interview, and all this meditation stuff that is like goes everywhere within his work, and influenced him so much, and he was talking so much about it on a very deep level. I think it's all clearly displays that he is into it. So what's additionally? There were many things that would indicate that he is rational. First of all, the way he behaves and doing everything in a certain order, like for example with ideas, that he would follow a certain procedure. He wouldn't just approach ideas in a different way every single time. He's having his sort of protocol how to deal with that. And the same with his movies. Like there was a comparison to other filmmaker who often likes to go back to his movies even after several years and like do retouch them and stuff like that, and he wouldn't do that. Another thing that I noticed in his speech is negativism. Despite having mostly positive attitude, when it was coming down to some like negative experiences that he had, he was describing them like even in a more negative light, like he was overly sort of dramatizing them and saying that yeah, if it's a bad situation, it's not just bad situation. He was saying it's terrible situation. If he failed, he not just failed, he's like died. And that's why he is a negativist. And based on all the things, it comes down to one particular type, which is ethical, intuitive extrovert. And I must say that through the whole interview, he made an impression of a person that fully utilizes their strong sides. Like he is introverted intuition, he not just uses it, he like embraces it. He brought it to another level, and that's how he comes up with all these great ideas. And it's fascinating to really listening to him talking about introverted intuition. And now let's move on to David Lynch's psychosophic type. Well, first, I already mentioned that I think that he most likely got first emotion. Because how deeply he involved with his work, things that he's creating, like it's a very personal, strong emotional connection, and he is devastated when it's being like any kind of critic is brought up, or if anybody wants to change it. He wants it exactly the way that he imagined. And the reason why he is able to go so deep within himself and get all these ideas using introverted intuition is also through first emotion that really opens this channel like very wide for him, like this emotional and spiritual channel. The first function in Psycho-sophy is ego, and the second function in Psycho-sophy is our gift to the world. And unfortunately, in this interview, his second function wasn't really highlighted, so I went and watched a couple other interviews and parts of the documentary. And oh man, there is some nasty stuff that he uses to create his art. Rotten steak, dead bird, dead mouse that has worms coming out of its mouth and blood coming out, and chicken heads that he was smashing. And also he was collecting dead flies to use in his paintings, and dead bugs, and so on and so forth. And somehow he manages not only not to be disgusted to work with this, and he likes touch it and do things with it. Like he likes the process. He actually likes to handle in all this rotten stuff, all this nasty stuff that most people don't even come close to, like stinky and etc. And somehow he manages to take the nastiest stuff ever and come up with some great art out of it that you can actually put in exhibition and people actually appreciate it. I mean, isn't that amazing? So I think the only function that can do that is second physics. Not to mention that he also does carpenting that he likes to do for hours, and he got his own studio for music that he can experiment with the sound, and he also does photography, and this all in addition, of course, to his cinematography. I mean, he being creative in so many different ways, like such a variety, and he doesn't afraid to expand all this energy in so many different things, and quite successfully, and being very prolific in terms of creating an art. So everything is pointing out here second physics. Now let's talk about his logic. What I noticed from him that he has a difficulty to convey his thoughts. His answers are usually very simple. He doesn't expand on his thoughts. He repeats the same things from interview to interview, and when he gets asked new questions, he doesn't try to come up with some like new answer. He doesn't try to think more about it and bring something more like more thoughts and try to experiment with thoughts. He doesn't try to engage in logical dialogue. So this all leads me to believe that he most likely got forced logic. So all this leads to him having a third will. And indeed, in his interviews, there are a couple things that would suggest that. For example, when he had a failure with his movie, he said that he died the death. He not just failed, but it was devastating for him. And this is typical for third will to be so upset about their failures, even though it might be one failure, but he still thinks about it through his life and he carries that pain. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching. This certainly wasn't easy, but I hope you liked it. Please let me know what you think in the comments, leave like and subscribe if you would like to support this channel. And see you in the next videos.